We are back. It is Colts Corner with myself, Kevin Bowen. Eddie Garrison is with me. It was a late Thursday night, very late for Eddie, so appreciate him joining us here on this Friday morning. We are going to recap Colts and Ravens preseason opener. What was the final score? 24-16? Was it that?
I think so.
By the way, I love that the NFL now just ends preseason games in ties. That is awesome to see. The Colts avoided that, but I did see one of the games last night ended in a tie. Ton to get to on today's pod. Obviously a lot from last night and really unfortunate rookie injury news. So we'll hit on that as well. Eddie, good morning to you.
Good morning, and I appreciate you being appreciative of me, but I think we're equally in the same boat here just because, you host a morning show at 7 a.m., and that game did not really end early into the night last night for you either, so we're probably operating on the same amount of sleep.
Never been a big fan of the prime timers, but no one wants to care about that. They would like to hopefully hear a little bit of analyzing, I guess, from last night. So let's get into it. We'll start with the quarterbacks and then try to get into our regular season mode of, hey, what did I like? What did I not like? But let's start with the quarterbacks and obviously begin with Anthony Richardson. I guess there is part of me that, feels the need to look at the three passes that he did throw. He was 2 of 3 last night, Eddie, and the one called back due to the illegal man downfield, the screen to Warren. It seemed like, and I think the injury play also plays into this, it seemed like there was a very concerted effort to kind of lock onto A.D. Mitchell.
Yep.
He had the one comeback with that pocket kind of collapsing as the first completion. And then if you watch the near interception, the 3rd and 7, I liked on 2nd and 13 him just finding Warren. Again, that's kind of simple. Get to 3rd and 7, get to manageable. Now you're back into manageable field goal range. You have a chance to convert. Now 3rd and 7, I didn't love that. He locks in on Mitchell, not open. And if you throw late across the middle on a 3rd and long, oh boy, you're asking for disaster. And it nearly was. He nearly gets picked off there over the middle of the field, trying to find Doolin there over the middle. And yes, again, the pocket is not necessarily ideal, but that's one where maybe in the preseason he's like, no, I'll test it here, but in the regular season I'll eat it. That's probably giving him too much credit, but that's one you got to eat. 3rd and 7, throw it at the feet of Doolin. Don't even give your chance for a turnover there. And again, a sack would have been obviously knocking you out of field goal range in all likelihood there. So I guess that is the extreme overreaction to 3 snaps of him, but obviously let's go to the play that he gets injured on. The injury itself, by all accounts, doesn't sound to be too severe.
Jordy Schultz said around 9 o'clock this morning that he'll be back on the practice field soon.
Yeah, so again, Saturday,
like
Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
The Colts will practice. And that hit itself. We have this label with Anthony Richardson, and it's unfortunate. Is he injury prone? Nothing last night, Eddie, changed my thought on that. That sort of hit you're not bracing yourself for a 250-pound individual revving up and hitting you where he did. I'd venture to guess most NFL players would dislocate a finger. Most quarterbacks would dislocate a finger in that situation. Obviously, him having to leave due to any injury is not good for his own rep-needed self. He needs all the reps, especially on a night when it was supposed to be his night. He was supposed to get the bulk of the work there. So I think you kind of start there of again, injury prone. I still feel the same sort of injury questions about Anthony Richardson going into last night as I did exiting last night. I don't think that one changes much for me. The issue for me is how the injury happened. And it was a misidentification by your third-year quarterback. That is the clear, most obvious issue to me. And, Anthony obviously admitted it after the game. And, by all accounts, that identification pre-snap is rather elementary for an NFL quarterback. And for you to miss that in an August 7th preseason game setting, 2 first-team starters out there for the Ravens defense? By no means is, Zach Orr and Chuck Pagano trying to be super exotic with you. You're as vanilla as you can come in a preseason setting. And for you not to see that, and yet, Eddie, when you look around him offensively last night, on that play in particular, the rookie right tackle sees it. The rookie tight end sees it. the rookie running back sees it. And for you to be the one not on the same page. And even post-snap, Eddie, there were a couple tells right away. Pre-snap, you can identify it, but post-snap, once you see that end drop, and again, how much of this is like locking in on AD? AD was on that left side of the field. I'm trying to get a little bit more into why behind that play. For him not to see it, that would have me calling Weak Girl Hair Andy if I'm Shane Steichen. Just... oh boy, like what is going on here? Can you trust him? Can you trust him? And I think that is a very real question. This gets into, okay, what about game reps for him? Let's say he starts week 1, Eddie. That'll be his 16th career NFL start. I mean, that's not even a full season.
No.
So then you get into this internal debate, and I know this conversation has come up more in the last few months because Chris Bowers brought it up. Hey, we rushed him in there as a rookie. Well, does Anthony Richardson learn that play last night in a meeting room? Or does he have to experience it to learn it?
I mean, that's day one install stuff, though, right?
So, again, theoretically, he learned that, right? In a meeting room. But do you have to learn it again on the field? And again, this just gets into what makes his overall evaluation so complicated and so frustrating because it continues to lead to negative areas, I guess is probably the best way to put it. So, to summarize it all, Eddie, it doesn't sound like his absence will be too long. You have to flip the quarterback situation for Green Bay. If you really want to make this competition go on.
Because it essentially flipped last night.
It's got to be Richardson for a quarter and a half a week from Saturday.
Yeah.
Against Green Bay. Then maybe you make a decision after that and dress rehearsal it up against Cincinnati. I don't know. Maybe you continue it for one more week. Training camp's over. After this coming week, Thursday's joint practice is the end of it. So, but the injury itself, the injury-prone narrative, none of that matters too much to me. Yes, the fact that he had to leave the game matters. It's more of you're going to watch 31 other NFL teams salivate over watching that play. And now they're going to sit there and say, how else can we confuse him? How else can we make things be difficult for him? Because that should be a very anticipatory play where you realize it and you find DJ Giddens for 3 or 4 yards and you move on. But instead, he gets hurt. And honestly, he's fortunate to hold on to the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, that very easily could have been a turnover in your own territory.
Well, he did lose it.
Yeah,
and he got it back.
Yeah, I mean that could be catastrophic in a road environment against a quality opponent, et cetera, et cetera. So that's pretty much everything I've got on Richardson, Eddie. Yeah.
What did you think about Daniel Jones?
I thought he was better than what the stat line looks like. He was 10 of 21. Gould had 2 drops. Giddens had 1. Probably, I don't know, the 50-50 balls with Mitchell, I thought he didn't get a very favorable flag on.
I thought one of them was severely underthrown.
The deep ball?
Yeah, where he had 2 steps behind the corner.
Yeah, I know. Some of those, it's like Cooper Rush throws the front shoulder and throws instead of the back shoulder. I'm like, if you really back shoulder it, you can win there.
And get a PI, yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that. You just, you're not, is that a pure go route?
Right.
Or do you read that back shoulder? I thought Jones was fine. If I had to compare him to what I've seen so far in Grand Park, I do think last night he was probably a little bit better than he has been. Again, 10 of 21 with 4 drops. 10 of 17 isn't a great night by any means, but I did think at his best, he gave, I would say, probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 opportunities for notable yards after catch. In stride, you make a play. You turn, 8 into 13, 9 into 17, things like that to a variety of guys. That's a really key part, obviously, to playing quarterback, particularly this offense. I thought his best play of the night was probably that 2nd and 7 where he rolled to his left. He's definitely under pressure. It doesn't end in a sack. It doesn't end in a throwaway. And he finds Doolin for 20, 25, something like that. Doolin, did a lot with it after the catch. But I thought that was what Jones can do with his legs. So, when you talk about the Colts quarterback situation, Eddie, the bar is so pathetically low. It's arguably different than every NFL team. So, when I sit here and say, well, I think Daniel Jones was okay, I mean it, but then, If I watched whatever Jordan Love quarterback a camp for 10 straight days and then you told me to weigh him up against that, I'd probably be like, well, that's a little different. It's like, yesterday I'm playing in this golf out and they're like, yeah, Kevin, how about if you be the long drive guy? I'm like, okay, guys, I don't really hit a long drive. I can get the ball airborne. So like people like look at that and they're like, oh wow, that's pretty good. But then like if you get some other people on the tee that can really hit it, they're like, wait, you're the long drive guy? You like have Greg Maddox's fastball. I'm like, well, yeah. Sorry. That's kind of like Daniel Jones playing quarterback. It's like, well, he's okay, but like in the grand scheme of 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, he's not that good.
Do you have the precision like a Greg Maddox, Kevin? Are you hitting the fairways every time?
I wish. I wish I was Fred Funk, honestly, driving it. But whatever. That's neither here nor there. Again, I thought he had some nice on-target, in-stride moments. And I thought there were about 4 or 5 of them. And, him and Richardson both, they did not receive very firm pocket perimeters.
No.
Ross Travis and Blake Freeland in there for 2.5 quarters. I did think there was some leakage there coming off the edge. So, all in all, if I had to summarize the quarterback night, how do you not look at it as a win for Daniel Jones? As sad as that sounds. I mean, The injury and all of that plays into it. The misidentification plays into that. Now, if I had to evaluate purely Jones himself, I think the night was about what we've seen so far, maybe slightly better. And, when Shane Steichen says it's going to come down to consistency, I think there also is a way to look at that, Eddie, and say it's going to come down to who do you trust? And when that question is asked, it is, if you want to live in that bubble. Now, again, I want to live in a bubble of just get an answer on Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's it. Get an answer on Richardson, and you know what? He happens to be the higher ceiling quarterback, so play him. That's my thought process. But the Colts probably live in a different thought process. They're living in a very week-to-week world, win now, et cetera, all of that. And if they do live in that world, I mean, last night was a good night for Daniel Jones. As bad as that sounds.
Just to summarize and wrap up here the QB thoughts, just mention Riley Leonard. I know there's people out there that
Riley definitely made plays with his legs. He can do that now. Again, he did that against probably people he saw more often than not in college. Can you do it against, first-team defense guys and maybe when there's more of a scheme against you? That remains to be seen. I thought he had a couple nice throws, but, I thought he definitely had some inaccurate moments as well. I'll continue to stand by. Nice developmental 6th-round quarterback. He has massive strides to take within the pocket. Boy, I feel like I've said that like a million times about Colts quarterbacks lately. If Richardson was out for some reason, I would go sign somebody else. I don't know if I would want to be one play away from life with Riley Leonard.
Right.
I think nice redshirt year for him and see what you got.
For those of you that may be newer to the podcast, my guess is during the preseason, Kev, we'll continue doing it this way. Like, hey, we'll break down the quarterbacks and get into what you liked, what you didn't like.
Yeah,
and then, of course, during the regular season, it'll just be, intro, brief thoughts about the game, get into what you liked or didn't like, depending on how the outcome of the game went. So let's pivot now to what you did like. Even though the Colts lose, we're going to start there just because there were some positives to take away from this game. Yeah, let's start with Tyler Warren. 3 catches and 3 targets, 4 if you want to include the penalty. I thought 4 very different routes, too. And honestly, the routes that he ran last night or the plays that he made, I can think of like 3 or 4 other ways they've involved him at Grand Park that we didn't see last night. I mean, they are going to get him the ball. They're going to use him all over the field. This is going to be a high-targeted touched individual by the Colts offense. He played all 20 snaps in the first 3 series.
Did he?
Yeah.
Gosh, it seemed like he was out there. Was it him and Ogletree? Was that the starting tight end? I think Ogletree kind of got blown up a little bit on that first play, but I think that was the starting tight end duo last night. So, very good night for Warren. I think you like what you saw. I thought JT Tuimoloau had a good first debut. His body type is not Dayo Dangbo, but they seemingly have used him a little bit like that. Versatile inside on the passing downs. He was really freed up very well for a stunt sack there at one point, but made a couple plays. I think Nate Atkins said bone bruise for him after the game and chatting with him in the locker room, so hopefully that's not going to sideline him for too long. But I thought the first 2 picks, you had to be pleased with. Shout out to Ashton Doolin. I just, what a nice career, man. Just, he's still here, and he's still damn reliable.
Yep.
And he had a couple plays as a receiver last night, and obviously he's a key special teamer. I mean, hell, his college that he went to doesn't even have football anymore.
Yeah.
And yet here he is, just carving out a really nice undrafted career. Good to see Jelani Woods catch a couple from Riley Leonard late. I think it's a notable hill for him to climb to make the roster, but good to see Jelani Woods out there a little bit late. What else? Alex Johnson at corner. He had that early pick.
Mm-hmm.
Great play in the air. And then later he knocked away a ball on, I think it was a 3rd and 10. Right now, he's knocking on that door of like who's next at corner. And I guess we should probably just get to Justin Wally now. I just flat out sucks. Just absolutely sucks. Torn ACL in the joint practice. Shane announced it last night after the game. I don't know in the 9 years of Chris Ballard if I've heard the amount of public praise by various individuals within that building for him. I mean, a variety of people have made sure that they have praised him. And, we've seen the playmaking too. If I'm not mistaken, again, I wasn't there, but I believe he got hurt or he tore his ACL on a play that he knocked a ball away in the joint practice. I mean, that just kind of shows you who he's been. So he was your starting third corner. And I don't think there was much debate, even if Jalen Jones and Juju Brents would have stayed healthy. Now, that's me projecting a little bit, but now what happens at corner? The position on paper, Eddie, you didn't have, like when we did the positional mock draft back in April, I didn't have corner as a 3rd round need.
Right.
And if Jalen Jones and Juju Brents were healthy right now and have shown a nice arrow, I don't know if I would act like the Wally injury is super significant. But given their statuses, Jones and Brents, it right now is pretty significant. And I get that you're a month away. Right now we're a month. Yesterday is a season opener. But, you think about week 1 with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and some of those wideouts early in the season and Lou Anarumo wanting to play multiple DBs. Again, what is this going to look like over time? That I think is a huge, huge question that you do have. So, again, this is a storyline to watch. What does corner depth look like? Is Alex Johnson pushing? Is Samuel Womack back in an important role for you? He's probably had an up and down camp. Jonathan Edwards, a corner out of Tulane, an undrafted free agent. Could he be a UDFA on your roster? Johnson comes over from New York as an undrafted kid the year prior with Jerome Henderson, who's the DB coach now with the Colts. So that's something probably worth pointing out as well. But I thought Johnson had a couple moments there. And honestly, the pass defense in general. I mean, John Harbaugh was laughing about it after the game. He goes, "Do you think a team's ever won in a preseason game throwing for 59 yards in a game?" So, pass defense-wise, I thought the Colts did a nice job. Joe Bacci obviously had the big interception there early as well.
Man, he just makes plays, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah, particularly, honestly, in the pass game. Now,
bless you.
Man, that sneeze felt so good. Gosh, felt good to get that out. Now, as we transition to things I didn't like, you mentioned linebacker there. I thought the linebacker run fits were horrid.
Oh, my gosh.
I thought the run defense was horrific. Just gashed. I mean, hell, the Ravens won the game thanks to what? Running the ball and special teams. That's pretty much why they won the game. The run defense, linebacker-wise, oh, boy. Not ideal at all. I thought Hunter Wooler had a moment or two and also definitely had some whiffs coming up as a safety and playing against the run there. Special teams, the coverage. Brian Mason is not going to like watching that film. The big punt return, the big kick return. Just brutal. 108 yards and penalties. Eddie, that would be by far a season high if you want to look back on last year. So that is something as well just to keep an eye on. Colts have usually not been a very penalized team under Shane Steichen, but he was not happy about that post game, and he shouldn't have been. Gould had a couple drops. I really can't recall many, if any, he's had in camp. He's been one of the more productive wideouts in camp.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd throw that in there. The A.D. Mitchell night, I don't know, Eddie. It's he
Two
had
catches on 6 targets.
2 catches on 6 targets, which that ratio is not good. I don't think it was as egregious of a night for Mitchell as it looked on paper, though. Like, if you didn't watch the game and you see 2 on 6, you don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch the game, again, you brought up Jones kind of slightly underthrowing him. I thought there were a couple plays that could have been flagged. It turned into 50-50 moments. I'd like to see him come down with one of those. But again, I don't think it was as bad as it was at times last year. And just a little bit of a timing with Jones one time there. So, before the game, I really wanted to see Mitchell in like those alligator-y arm moments.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see him put into those situations, and I don't think he was in a lot of them. So, he's been terrific, Mitchell. But game settings is just a different animal for him. So I think that probably covers everything on my end, Eddie. Again, offensive tackles, Ryman and Braden Smith are just going to mean so much for you. That does concern me a little bit here. But unless you think you have anything else to add, I guess, should we talk a little Spencer Schrader?
Yeah. Should mention it.
Weirdly, I bet I've seen him kick, 20 field goals this camp in preseason. I bet he's made 16 of them. I'd venture to guess all the misses have been, maybe all but one have been north of 50, and I swear they all have been off the upright. Now, I know he missed one, I think, a little bad to end the Baltimore joint practice based off a 2-minute drill that I was reading about from people that were there. So that one would be different. But, like, all of his misses, I literally feel like I'm watching Matt Gay kick. Outside of them, like, not having anywhere near the same body type.
Well, look, he learned from him. What do you expect, Kev?
But it's been like the same exact. I guess Matt Gay had that big hook going last year, whereas I guess it was kind of a slight one last night for those that watched the missed kick. But great opportunity. Kicked 4 field goals last night. I think he's the leader. I think he'll be your kicker, and then you just kind of wait and see as the season moves along.
Hit one from 53, right?
Yes,
had
right.
Plenty of leg left.
Yeah, leg is no issue. This is not Hot Rod where you're like, wait, does he have the leg or does he not have the leg? No. He can boom it. It's just, what's going to happen when it all gets real. And, the one he missed last night, they threw him out there kind of in a 2-minute, probably the more pressure-packed kick. And, snap and hold looked good, but, you kind of ran him out on the field and all of that. So I assume he will be your kicker.
Before we get into Twitter questions, the remaining camp schedule, they'll practice Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then they're off until Thursday, right? And that'll be the final training camp practice with the Green Bay Packers at Grand Park. And that one is a 3 o'clock. And I think, I know Saturday and Sunday are 4 o'clock. I can't remember Monday's practice.
Yeah, Monday
time.
is as well. So, yeah, they're done with the morning practices. Yeah, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, as you said, Eddie, 4 o'clock each day. I would guess Saturday's a little light, and then Sunday and Monday would be a little bit more ramped up. Tuesday and Wednesday are off. So then you recharge the batteries for, like you said, that Green Bay joint. It sounded like on his broadcast last night, Kenny Moore kind of hinted at, like, he's going to get out there for the Green Bay game. I don't know if that was just him talking or if that's real. Because Shane's always been like, if we have joint practice, we're not going to play those guys.
Right.
And they sat, I think I did the math last night, and I'll use this in quotes, Eddie. They had 3 defensive starters, Latu and Kwity Paye played a series, and then Cam McGrone right now is listed as a starter. Offensively, if you call Richardson a starter, you had 4, I think. Richardson, Tyler Warren, Tanner Bortolini, and Matt Gonzalez. So you played about 6-ish starters there. You know me. I've always been a believer that you play more of those guys.
Yep.
But I'm not holding my breath at all.
Let's get into Twitter questions because our first one pertains towards the offensive line. This is from Claude, KB. Was Anthony Richardson at fault for that sack or the organization? Should he have been out there with the second unit, or was that a blown protection?
Yeah, by all accounts, it was blown by Anthony Richardson. If you watch that play, I think the other 10 seem to be pretty much on the same page. Is any of this Tanner Bortolini, Anthony Richardson not on the same page? Yeah. Is the center controlling that, or is that just something that you just ID and you don't even communicate it together? Hey, we have to be on the same page. We don't need to have a dummy check or whatever, a call at the line that gets us on the same page. Again, I pointed out, if you look at it, the 3 rookies on that play all seem to know what they're doing there. And, Richardson doesn't there. So, organizationally, I guess Claude's kind of hinting at, do you play your frontline guys? Again, I don't think that all of a sudden cures that play. But outside of Taylor, I probably wouldn't have too many issues playing anybody else offensively. I mean, guys can get rolled up on at any moment.
Yep.
I mean, Rashawn Slater loses his season yesterday in practice.
Yep.
It just...
C.J. Gardner-Johnson looks like the same.
Yeah, you just never know. And Joe Wright, who you heard on the broadcast last night, I mean, he's always said this. He's like, you got to spar as an offensive lineman. Like, you have got to get into those settings and experience it. So, we will see if, I don't know, what do you think they do week 3 of the preseason? Let's say they throw Richardson out there, 1.5, Green Bay. What do you think they do for that Cincinnati game? No joint practice before Cincinnati. You're done with training camp. What do you do that Saturday night, final preseason game?
That's a good question. I would assume that it would hope that you would play the entire starting unit, at least for a series or two, and then let Richardson go out there with whatever you want, the second unit, whatever the case may be.
Do you name a starter after the Green Bay game a week from Saturday, and you dress rehearsal that dude in that final preseason game?
No.
So you carry the competition out through the Cincinnati game?
I would, yeah. Just because look what happened last night. Like, you can name Richardson the starter going into that Cincinnati game for week 1, and then he gets hurt.
Yeah. I'll be very curious to see what Shane Steichen does with that.
Twitter question number 2 is from Wake Spike. Hypothetically, if Anthony Richardson doesn't pan out and Daniel Jones doesn't pan out either, Wake Spike says, really big stretch there. What 3 Colts do you think the organization would try to trade ahead of 2026, assuming they hold Richardson no matter what for next season?
Look, it's kind of a loaded one. With a new GM, everybody's on the table. Right?
Yep.
I mean, the immediate ones that would come to mind, obviously, anytime you get a running back of Taylor's age and making that money.
Yep.
That'd be a contract year for him, if I'm not mistaken. A Pittman would also be in a contract year. We've talked about the wideout future, especially if Mitchell shows you something. I think you largely, the O-line guys, obviously Braden Smith would be a free agent, but Nelson, and I guess Nelson might be doing an extension, but certainly Ryman isn't.
Nelson would be in a contract year next year as well. I remember him being like an underrated guy leading up to training camp that could get, yeah.
Now, I think you would want, theoretically, if you're having a new quarterback, I think you'd kind of want a solid offensive line. So I'd say Taylor, Pittman, and then defensively, really all those guys are kind of in the same boat. Buckner up there in age, Grover up there in age, Zaire up there in age, Kenny up there in age, obviously various value.
Travarius Ward.
Ward, yeah, he's one as well. So, I'd say Taylor, Pittman, and then, I don't know, Buckner would probably net, although he's in his 30s. Ward would probably net a good amount. But I'm always pretty much a believer that I answer the phone on anybody just to get intel. But who would be safe? Again, outside of wanting probably a solid offensive line for that next quarterback, I could be talked into a lot of things.
I'm assuming the players that you would deem as safe would be Warren, Downs, and Ryman. Downs probably lesser of the 3. Just because, I feel like slot receiver is one of the easiest ones to.
And I think Nelson, I'd want some continuity behind that, or in front of, I guess I should say, that quarterback there. But boy, if you gave me the right asking price, yeah, hell yeah.
Neil would like to know, KB, if A.D. Mitchell still has an underwhelming season, is he going to be another Paris Campbell, another high draft pick that is a dud?
No. First off, unfortunately, the Paris Campbell thing has been, well, at least here, was largely injury related.
Mm-hmm.
I saw he just got cut by Dallas, I think.
He got hurt.
Did he get hurt?
Yeah.
And then got cut? Was he Philly recently with Sirianni?
He
Does that sound
was.
right?
Yeah, he was.
He might have dressed in the Super Bowl. As wild as that sounds. Yeah, I think it's it's injuries for Campbell largely compared to whatever with Mitchell. And like, can we pump the brakes on this Mitchell thing? I mean, I feel like I've gotten these sorts of questions several times. It's like, guys, he's been in the league for 1 year. I mean, you're letting Jelani Woods play out his rookie contract. Mitchell is not going anywhere. And again, he's arguably doing the hardest thing that there is to play receiver, and that's get open. And this kind of popped in my mind. I don't know, Eddie. Maybe once we get through the preseason, we can kind of dedicate a segment of a future podcast before the season starts to this. How do the 2025 Colts make the playoffs? That general question.
Mm-hmm.
When that question is asked, you would immediately probably point to two areas, if not both. Better quarterback play and better defensive play.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the thought at quarterback is Daniel Jones' arrival, Richardson makes year 3 strides. The thought defensively is investments in the secondary like you've never had.
Lou Anarumo.
I'd say third on that list is better pass catching. You brought up Downs and Pierce earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They make you sleep just fine at night.
Yeah.
They were good individual players for you last year.
Yeah.
Now go to the next part of the pass catching group. To me, I look at 3 areas. One is, does Michael Pittman Jr. not look like me with his back?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that could be one, healthier Pittman.
And he still caught, 70 balls for 800 yards?
Exactly. 2, does A.D. Mitchell have growth? And then 3 is, of course, the man we saw last night, number 84.
Yeah.
His pure presence. So those are 3 different areas: Pittman health, Mitchell growth, Warren's arrival. If you get 1 or 2 of those, you had none of them last year. If you get 1 or 2 of them, of the 3,
mm-hmm.
that's a better pass catching group.
Yeah.
So again, that is another part of, okay, how do the Colts become a playoff team? All right. Some people might be skeptical quarterback wise. Fine. Some people might be skeptical defensively. Fine. The pass catching thing, I can, if you are Chris Ballard and you say, Kevin Bowen, sit down and let me tell you why we're going to be a better team this season, and he laid out the pass catchers like that,
mm-hmm.
I think I'd walk away from that saying, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I can see where you're coming from on that. And again, my eyes have watched Mitchell. Pittman kind of been quiet, but I've watched Mitchell
mm-hmm.
and I've watched Warren, and I see where you're going from.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody on the sidelines at, one of those practices I was at, and I was like, hey, how's Pittman looked? He was last year as the back. He goes, he hasn't really done a lot. Like, he hasn't flashed. I was like, that's also true because Pittman's a gamer. He's not going to be a guy that's a camp wowzer.
Yeah, his to your point, his flashy is more of a you out of the box score at the end of the game and you're like, oh, wow. Or honestly, he flashes and making like a physical play. It's like,
yeah.
Did you see that hit he took?
Yeah. Someone's going to add, I forget. So move along to Mark's question, or questions, I should say. How did Juju Brents look prior to his hamstring injury, Kevin? What is your level of confidence with the secondary? Seems like the Colts have their top 3 corners in Justin Wally, Charvarius Ward, and Kenny Moore. Now, unfortunately for Wally, he is out for the season. To have Juju Brents, Samuel Womack, and Jalen Jones whenever Jones returns is quality depth in Mark's opinion. Curious to hear your thoughts. Love the pod, and I'm happy we're back. We're almost here.
Indeed, Mark. Less than a month away. How about we get 3 top 10 matchups in college football on opening weekend? I thought I heard that was the first time ever. 1 versus 2, of course. Ohio State and Texas. You'll get LSU, Clemson, and then you'll get the old Fighting Irish against Miami there. That is the
LSU's a top 5 team?
Top 10.
Top 10?
Top 10. Pretty sure. Double check me on that if I'm wrong. Boy, I've always liked Jalen Jones, man. And I thought Jalen Jones was having a nice little camp.
Yeah.
Gosh, Rosie puts all these little sticker things on my.
She's going to get mad that you're peeling it off.
Yeah, I probably should just leave it on there. You're right. I thought he was making some plays. Now, again, he's a little different corner than Wally. Him and Juju are different than Wally.
Mm-hmm.
So, Juju, maybe a couple plays there. But I think the bummer is just, on paper, you have created real depth. Now, let's say Jones and Brents show up for you, and they're healthy.
Boy.
Samuel Womack.
You know the lottery numbers for me if Juju Brents is staying healthy?
Samuel Womack is your fifth corner. That's an improvement from last year.
And you got Chris Lamont still, right?
Yeah, they re-signed Lamont, or they brought Lamont's back last week. I think they got a couple of those guys that came over from Jerome Henderson with the Giants as well.
Trey Herndon.
Yeah, but they barely, Duke Shelley, I think they barely played last year. And we mentioned Alex Johnson earlier, Jonathan Edwards earlier. So, corner again, do you do the same thing you did last year? Is it a cut down position? Remember, Womack was their one waiver claim last year. So is that something that you dabble in again? But yeah, I will be very curious to see when do Jones and Brents get back, because that's needed. And, Ward has been kind of off and on in terms of his availability here. Is that just kind of management this time of year? And boy, you really need him and Kenny to play. If we redid indispensable Colts, what did I have? What was my list? Ryman, Zaire. Did I have a corner that high? Maybe I did have Ward that high. Yeah, you can make an argument to put Ward and Kenny both in your top five.
Yeah, I think I would a little different than you. I remember having Latu. I had Bernard. I had Nelson. I can't remember if I put Braden on there or not, but
yeah, I think you did.
Yeah,
totally makes sense.
Yeah. Final questions from Josh. We often talk about Anthony Richardson having a high ceiling but a low floor. I'm curious what you actually think his ceiling looks like after a couple of years. Obviously, all the physical tools are there and health is a concern. But I think I'm most curious about your opinion on the mental and intangible side of Anthony Richardson. Is there any precedent for a quarterback developing that to a championship level later on after a couple of years in the league?
Yeah, I think, in regards to like growth from a maturity standpoint, yeah, I there probably is a little bit of precedent there. The problem with Richardson, Josh, is that's like one layer. There's 7 layers to him. There's Monday through Saturday. There's accuracy. There's turnovers. There is how much are you running it? How much are you not running it? Obviously, can you stay healthy? It's just, like, there's just so much to the parlay that has to be hit. Now, having said that, like in general with him playing football, you're not asking him to be Drew Brees accurate or Phillip Rivers accurate. If he could get to 58%, in my opinion, at the level, if 58% is met with a respectable turnover number, you can win with that.
Yep.
You can win with that. And right now, that's probably the highest I can go with his ceiling.
I think Chappell had him at 58% in 11-on-11 team periods.
Right, which, again, in camp, you need to be much higher than that. Like, you need to be, to me, you almost knock off 10% from camp to a game. Because last year, I think he was north of 60, if I'm not mistaken, in camp there. So, that is kind of how I would baseline it. The problem with defining his ceiling, or like people that are like, hey, he's got such a high ceiling and all of that. We sit here right now and we've yet to see him play truly good to great football.
Yep.
Ever. Collegiately, again, Chris Ballard makes the comparisons to Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. I was like, wait a minute, Baker Mayfield won the Heisman Trophy.
Yep.
Sam Darnold threw for 4,000 yards at one of the best schools in college football. Like,
yep.
No, we can't go there. And so
Jared Goff went to a Super Bowl before he got traded to Detroit.
Right. So that's what I think makes it challenging of, yes, there are these just tantalizing elements to him, but it's largely still yet to be ever seen collegiately, especially, which I think, again, kind of adds to all of it there. But again, Josh, even if you don't want to say, whatever, that's an all-pro level, if you can just live in what if he got to 58%, which is not that ludicrous of an ask.
No.
If he got there, and again, the turnovers were not as problematic as they were last year, the Colts very well could be a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
Very well. So that's kind of how I view it.
Let me ask you this in conclusion here. With the way that Chris Ballard was aggressive in helping out Lou Anarumo in the secondary, with the selection of Tyler Warren, and you mentioned the players that are entering a contract year next year, if things don't pan out with Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson this year, are we going to see another situation where the next general manager sees what we are currently discussing, is that they have these guys that can make plays. They have the foundation to be a good team. We just need a veteran quarterback in there. And we're back to the endless cycle that was of Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid.
Stop it. No. God, that's a sick thing to end on that you just dropped that on me. No. No. And this gets, I debated a little bit. I don't know if you and I did, Eddie, but people right now are bringing up Michael Parsons and Terry McLaurin. Those are the two big names that people are bringing up right now. And hey, insert team here, should they enter that mix?
I thought we talked about it last week. I thought we had a Twitter question about it, yeah.
Okay. Well, just to reiterate it, the Colts are frozen.
Yes.
You can't do that stuff. You can't entertain that stuff without it. So, whatever. Drew Aller and Arch and Mendoza and the kid from South Carolina. Yeah, Nussmeier.
Lenore Sellers.
Whoever you want to dream about.
Klubnik.
You got to be frozen. You just can't do it. And it's unfortunate. It's a bummer. But that's the reality that you are currently in right now. But no. Band-Aid it? No, stop that.
I was just saying.
Can you imagine Jacoby Brissett quarterbacking this team?
Oh, no, I'm talking like...
Carson Wentz out of retirement?
Yeah, no,
Is Carson
not like
Wentz
that.
Done? My brother saw him at Kroger the other day.
I don't know. I just remembered, by the way, what I was going to mention earlier that I forgot. You said avenue for the Colts to make the playoffs. You mentioned better quarterback play, better defensive play, and then an underrated one was better pass catching. Number 4, they're in the AFC South.
Well, that's the gift that keeps giving, baby. You know what I say. God bless the AFC South.
And as we wrap up, KB, I know people are going to start wondering when we're doing the Fantasy Football League and the Pick'em. That stuff coming out soon. We're kind of finalizing the details on how we want to give away the spots to the Fantasy Football League.
It's still open to suggestions from people. We have debated a few. Eddie's come up with what I think is a pretty good idea, but we're still open. We'll probably provide that info for you on an upcoming pod or two. Slide into either of our DMs for that if you have any thoughts. He is Eddie Garrison. I am Kevin Bowen. Thank you for listening to Colts Corner with Kevin Bowen. We'll talk to you probably Tuesday-ish, recapping a trio of Colts practices.